The UK will play its full part in peacekeeping efforts in Ukraine, said Sir Keir Starmer. I'm going to read into this exclusive from Sky News, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from Sky News with the headline that the UK will play its full part in peacekeeping efforts in Ukraine, says Sir Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister was speaking to Sky News political editor Beth Rigby while on a surprise visit to Ukraine on Thursday. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. This was a very surprise. This was indeed a surprise visit for Sir Keir Starmer to make the visit to Ukraine, considering that the situation that is taking place in the UK. We are still dealing with. There's a lot of problems, obviously, in the UK right now. And they have a cost of living crisis, among many other things that are very problematic and are not really. The feeling is that right now we're not feeling that change and that difference right now. Now, granted, Labour have only been in power for more than 6 months. And obviously, they need some time to see what they can do. But in the meantime, obviously, what we do on the international stage obviously matters, in our relationships with international partners and whatnot definitely is important to us as well. Now, the UK has donated a lot of money, weapons, and arms and support to Ukraine. And I have always stood by and supported the UK government, whether it was Conservative and this one, in its decision in fully supporting Ukraine in its war. In every way, step of the way, I've been fully supportive of it, and my position has never changed on that because of the repercussions of what it could have on the rest of Europe, including us. You know, a lot of people don't seem to think that what's happening in Ukraine doesn't affect us. It does. There is always a ripple effect, and even just because we're not next door to Ukraine or next door to Russia doesn't mean that what happens there doesn't affect us. It can affect us because we are still a part of Europe, even if we're not part of the European Union. So I predicted that in 2025, I've said this on other places as well, that I predict that in 2025 we will have peace between Russia and Ukraine, but we just don't know what kind of deal is going to be. And everything kind of stems down to what's going to happen when Donald Trump takes office. So that's really the crux of how things are going to go. So a lot of talk has been that that for the first time when the Trump administration comes in, is that there will be negotiations, there'll be sat down negotiations between Russia, Ukraine, and America will mediate it, my understanding. There may be one or two other bodies that will mediate it as well. But that's when negotiations will start. I know, and I've heard this from numerous different outlets, is that Russia are already ramping up their propaganda to basically portray what's happened in Ukraine as a success for them, even though that was not their original intention in the first place. So what kind of role, I guess the question is asking is, what role is the UK going to have after, if it does come to pass? If we do have at some point this year that we will have some kind of peace agreement or some kind of arrangement made between Ukraine and Russia, what kind of role is the UK going to play in it? So one of the things that was asked about whether or not we'd have peacekeeping forces in it, and I personally do not have a problem with that if it means maintaining the peace. I personally would rather have UN peacekeepers, but I don't think that would happen. But if it meant peacekeepers by UK and other European nation forces, not just us, but maybe France, Germany, some other EU forces that ensures that peace is maintained, then I'm all in support of that for sure. But both Ukraine's economy has suffered immeasurably, Russia's economy and its population, same with Ukraine's, has suffered immeasurably as a direct result of this. And Vladimir Putin is not going to pay anything for this. I think one of the things possibly that they will try to advocate Russia is to try and have some sanctions lifted against them, so they can have some breathing room in their country. I don't know how much of that they're going to be allowed to have, but I think that might be something that would be discussed as well. So let's read what this exclusive from Sky have had to say on this all, guys. So, the UK will play its full part in peacekeeping in Ukraine, Sir Keir Starmer has said. The Prime Minister has told Sky's political editor Beth Rigby that the conflict with Russia is not just about the sovereignty of Ukraine, but about the impact it's also had on the UK, including the cost of living crisis. Sir Keir was speaking to Sky News while on a surprise visit to Ukraine on Thursday. He's first since the party's landslide election victory 6 months ago. The purpose of the trip was to discuss the next steps for Ukraine, with the situation now more uncertain following Donald Trump's election victory in November. So Mr. Trump, whose inauguration takes place on January the 20th, has said he wants a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine within 100 days. But some European leaders fear pushing Kyiv into a deal could lead to Ukraine ceding some of its territory to Vladimir Putin. We'll read this bit a bit later. So Sir Keir said he did not want to get ahead of ourselves, but that the UK will play its full part in any peace negotiations, including by deploying British troops for peacekeeping. So they can't rule out further deployment we can't rule out the very fact there's possibility that British troops could be used as a peacekeeping operation within Ukraine, and I personally don't have an issue with that at all. Asked if he would be prepared to do that, the Prime Minister replied, "Well, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I do have to indicate that we will play our full part, because this isn't just about the sovereignty of Ukraine. It's about what the impact is back in the UK and our values, our freedom, our democracy, because if Russia succeeds in this aggression, it will impact all of us for a very long time." On arriving to Ukraine to meet Vladimir Zelensky, a Russian drone was shot over the skies over the presidential palace. Sir Keir said the drone threat was a reminder of what Ukraine is facing every day, and that the war was brought about by Russia's aggression. Elsewhere in the interview, Sir Keir was asked about his views on Ukraine's long-standing desire to join NATO, something President Putin strongly opposes. At the NATO summit in Washington last year, the alliance members announced that Ukraine was on an irreversible path to NATO membership. "We fully support Ukraine's right to choose its own security arrangements and decide its own future, free from outside interference. Ukraine's future is in NATO," the declaration had said. However, Mr. Zelensky has somewhat tempered his language around NATO membership, telling Sky News in an exclusive interview in November that a ceasefire deal could be struck if Ukrainian territory he controls falls under the NATO umbrella, allowing him to negotiate the return of the rest later in a diplomatic way. However, Mr. Trump has acknowledged Moscow's opposition to Ukraine joining NATO, saying Russia has somebody's right on their doorstep, and I can understand their feeling about that. And this is the crux here. President-elect Trump, he will not allow, let's be clear, he will not allow Ukraine to join NATO. But Ukraine will not agree to a ceasefire or any kind of peace deal without security guarantees. And this is the one thing they must have. They need to have security guarantees that Russia will not attack them again. This is something that they need, and they want that. And the thing is that they want to be a part of NATO, and they want to be a part of the EU. Now, the problem is that Russia does not want that. They feel like that's getting too close to them. They feel that the premise that they have is that they feel threatened by that decision, whether you agree or disagree with that. With that analogy, that is what the Russian president has in these portraying. And we know how to play the games about whether it's real or not. That is the situation. I do believe there will be a compromise. I do believe that Russia will end up keeping the territory it has, even though they have no right to it at all. They don't have any right to it, nor do they have any right to Crimea. I think Ukraine will give back its cursed region, but they will want some consensus from Russia to give it back, because Ukraine do not want to hold that region. But it will be used as a bargaining chip, that is for sure. But it will be interesting to see what happens when Trump comes in and how it impacts. But it's interesting to hear Sir Keir Starmer basically giving his up once again, just reinforcing that message of our support for Ukraine in this, because at the end of the day, their lands, their homes, their livelihoods were taken away from them by Russia, and they are our European friends and allies, and we must stand by them. And that's really, really, I think, very important thing to do. If we have to have peacekeepers in there along with other European allies, then so be it as well. I think that is the right thing to do. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of Sir Keir Starmer making his visit to Ukraine? What do you guys make of what he has said and about our support for Ukraine? Let me know your thoughts and more on all of this down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.